Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to our Gov Cloud webinar. Welcome to the second episode of our Gov Cloud webinar, DevSecOps, Digitalizing Your Software Delivery Process. Before we begin, let me share with you on how did this Gov Cloud series came about. So, in the recent years, most of the organizations have been moving towards cloud computing, and the public sector is no different. So, as a digital government transformation company, we have actually helped several government agencies move towards the cloud. And I think along the way we face, I won't say issues, but some learning points that we have gathered, and we put together this Gov at Cloud series to help you all actually hope that people will actually benefit from our learning points. So, for example, the previous episode, we actually spoke about securing integration in the public cloud. So, how beyond authentication and authorization, content inspection should be an important part of API gateways designed for governments. And other than that, we also touched on identity services via OIDC, integrating with identity services such as SingPass and CodePass via OIDC or SAML gateway. So if this is content that you are interested in, do give us a virtual hand raise via the chat window on your right, and then we will drop you the link, okay? Yeah. So let's see, the time now is 1:02, and okay, most of our attendees are here. So let us begin the session proper. Hi everyone, welcome to the second session of Gov at Cloud, and today's session is on DevSecOps. My name is Amanda, and with me today is Xiaojing.
Hi everyone.
And Yang. Okay. Hi guys. So Xiaojing is the senior manager of the digital government products team, and in the recent years, she and her team has actually focused a lot on studying and developing technologies that are relevant to government on cloud. So, and today she'll be actually speaking on DevSecOps. And doing the demo today will be Yu Yang. He is from our digital government transformation team and has worked with various government agencies on their plans to migrate their systems onto the public cloud. So I guess it'll be a very insightful time with them today. But before I hand over the session to them, let me run through some admin matters on how we're going to conduct this webinar. Firstly, it's a live webinar, and we will be doing a recording of this session and plan to release it on our YouTube channel. So if you have colleagues that are unable to attend this live session, do point them to our YouTube channel, which is bit.ly. You can actually access it via the bit.ly/TECQ YouTube, which you will see in the chat window on the right. Yeah, so also you'll find similar content such as this on the channel itself. So if you are interested in such content, do head over to our YouTube channel after this session. Okay, next, let me send out, let me send out a handout to help you better navigate this tool. Let's see, hold on. Okay, in the chat window, you actually see this handout whereby you can download. To better help you navigate this webinar platform, we have prepared this handout, and you will highlight 4 key features of this webinar to improve your webinar experience with us. So firstly is the chat window, which most of you already know how to use. So along the way, if you have any questions, comments, just post them into the chat, and we hope to address it along in this webinar. If not, we will get back to you offline. And then next, you'll realize that our faces actually take up 2/5 of the screen. And for some unfortunate reason, you don't want to see too much of our faces. You can actually minimize our faces via the minimize icon on the right, and then, or you can drag the line between our faces and the screen to adjust the presentation. You can also close the chat window to maximize the presentation screen. So yeah, I think this feature will come in very, very useful during the demo session. So do check it out. Okay. Let's now do a poll. Let's do a poll now. If you look towards your right, there we have also there is also a poll section, and let me put up the poll section. So we'd like to find out how you came across our webinar. Did you receive our invitation, our email invitation, or you were personally invited by our sales? Okay. Or did your boss ask you to register? Okay, if your colleagues ask you to register also, right? You click that link as well. Or do you come across our social media posts or our website? I think I need to thank the bosses for helping me publicize my webinar. Okay, so lastly, if you wish to invite us to present to your team or have questions about after this session, do drop us a note at info@topanacareer.com. Yeah, over to you, Xiaojing.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Xiaoqing. I'm the Senior Product Manager of Topan eCareer. Now, today we're going to have our Gov Cloud webinar series, episode 2. The topic will be on DevSecOps, digitalizing your software delivery process. Now, I'll be giving you a presentation and then I'll pass it over to my colleague Yu Kiang for a live demo. Now, let's get started now. Right, first thing first is what is DevSecOps? Before we go into DevSecOps, let's take a look at what is DevOps. Now, I guess many of us might already know by now that DevOps actually came from the collaboration of development and the operation teams. It is to empower the development team to take ownership of how their product performs in the production environment with the help of the automation tools. Now, DevSecOps simply means DevOps with security considerations by adopting the shift left culture. Now, what is shift left? Let's take a look at this development cycle here. Now, traditionally, security is done at the end of the development cycle, which is in this red color box over here. Now, by this time, usually is about 1-2 months away from your system go live date. And then imagine your scanning result shows that you have more than 600 over vulnerabilities and issues in your application, and you're only left with 1 month to go live. So this is actually the worst possible time to surface these vulnerabilities. And imagine what can your app team do. Now, at this point of time, I guess most of the time they can probably only try to resolve the critical issues with the risk of introducing potential bugs into the system because they do not have enough time to perform thorough full regression tests. So what is shift left? Let's take a look. Now, shift left basically means shifting all these security related scanning activities to the left of this entire process as shown over here. Okay, the purpose is to have security built in right from the start so that they can be done as early as possible. Issues can be found as early as possible, even during your development stage. And they can be fixed as early as possible without the costly late stage fixes further down the road. Okay, let's take a look. How did DevSecOps come about and what makes it possible? Now, firstly is the virtualization and digitalization of IT infrastructure. It is the backbone of this entire digital revolution. The virtualization that we are talking about today is no longer just about virtual machines. Technically, all IT resources in the cloud infrastructure are now virtualized, including virtualization of servers, storage, networking, and etc. Now, not only the infrastructure layer is virtualized, your applications and middlewares can now also be digitalized on a container platform like Docker. Virtualization of infrastructure, apps, and middlewares provides greater flexibility, scalability, and reliability. And of course, with the help of automation tools and modern technologies, automation at different aspects can now also be built into the CI/CD pipeline as part of the DevSecOps practices. So actually, DevSecOps plays an essential role in the entire digital transformation, where modern development and delivery processes are required to produce great applications that meet changing business needs. At this point of time, you might ask, why do I need DevSecOps? Right, so first, you need to change the way you build your apps. And why is that so? Now, just now you mentioned about digital transformation, right? So while it is good that many organizations now have started adopting the microservices architecture as one of the ways to digitally transform your applications. However, digital transformation doesn't stop at digitalizing your applications. You also need to change the way you build your apps. So you need to digitally transform the way you build and deploy your applications as well. And DevSecOps will help to increase your release velocity in order to achieve true business agility. Now, in this digital economy, it is all about speed. Hence, it's also very important for your system to be able to respond to the rapid changes as well. And you would need a digital software delivery process in order to be able to release your new features in order to be able to release your new features faster without compromising security. Now, as most of these activities that we traditionally need to do manually can now be automated, that means it will reduce the time required to release your new features significantly. That means your new features now can be launched much faster in order to respond to the changes quickly. Now, DevSecOps not only can help to release your frequent changes quickly, at the same time, it will also help to ensure quality and security that in your software releases. Now, with the shift left culture and automation through CI/CD pipeline, we can now automate the different types of testing, like your unit tests, your integration tests, functional tests, and also different aspects of the security scanning by integrating them into the build pipeline. Now, all these activities will take place for every single build. And if there's any quality or security issue, they will be detected during the build so that the necessary action can be taken as early as possible. Now, later in the demo, my colleague Yu Kian will show you in more detail how this can be achieved. Right, we have summarized 3 main reasons why you might need DevSecOps. At this point of time, we would like to hear from you as well. Now, may I bring your attention to the poll section on the right panel? We would like to hear from you at this point of time, we'd like to hear from your point of view, why would you be interested to implement DevSecOps? Please feel free to give us your feedback at any point of time during this seminar. Okay, allow me to proceed now. Okay, so to be in line with the Singapore government requirements, you can roll out DevSecOps in 3 different stages. Stage 1 is about automating build and static test and static scan. Static test is, for example, your unit test, and static scan, for example, your static code scanning or your third-party library scanning. Now, static here means that your application doesn't need to be running for all these tests and scans to take place. Now, stage 2 is about automating deployment. And stage 3 is about automating dynamic kind of tests. For example, automated regression tests and dynamic application security tests. This kind of dynamic test will require your application to be actually running. Now, so what do we offer in our Equal DevSecOps stack? Now, just now we talked about how you can roll out your DevSecOps in 3 different stages, right? So our Equal DevSecOps stack is able to fulfill the requirements of all these 3 different stages with additional support for Docker. Okay, we also built a tool ourselves called the Equal Docking Services, or in short, EDS. It is a container management tool for automated deployment, or we also call it a one-click deployment, monitoring, and auto-scaling. Now, just now we talked about the what and the why. Now let's talk about how to digitalize your software delivery process. Okay, we can digitalize your software delivery process in 3 different areas. The first one is the continuous integration, or we also call it, in short, CI. Now, this is usually in your development environment, okay, where we will automate the build, the scan, test, and then finally package them into deployment artifacts. Now, later we'll go into a bit deeper for each of these areas. The second one is the continuous deployment, or in short, we call it CD. Okay. Now, this would be residing in your DevSecOps environment. The CD pipeline would automate the deployment and control the release promotion. The third one would be your day two operations in your production environment. Okay, by the way, I saw someone asking a question here. Let me just take a quick answer here. Okay, someone asking where can our Equal DevSecOps be deployed to? Okay, we can deploy our solution in all the government hosting environments, meaning to say we can deploy in GCC, GDC, or GBC. So the good news is that we support all these 3 different environments. Okay. Now, please feel free to ask any question along the way at any point of time. You don't really need to wait until the end. Just head over to the message and type your question over there, yeah? Okay, thank you. Right, now let's go into a bit deeper to each of these areas. The first one is the continuous integration, CI, or sometimes you also call it the build pipeline. Right, the blue color section over here is actually the CI pipeline in your typical development environment, which basically automate the building of source codes, the various type of security scan, is also automating the different types of testing, for example, your unit tests, functional tests as well, and also finally package them into deployment artifacts, for example, Docker images, and then deploy to a QA environment for QA to verify. As you can see over here, there is a human gatekeeper here called the QA gate. Now, at this point of time, once it reaches this, once the application is deployed to the QA environment, it will actually pause at this QA gate and waiting for the QA manager to verify the application, verify all those tests and scanning reports to ensure that they meet the required standards. And once all these are verified, the QA manager will then come in to endorse the build. And then the deployment artifacts would then be promoted to the release repository waiting to be released. Okay, at this point of time, I would like to highlight a few tools that we use in our build pipeline toolchain. The first one is the SonarQube. Okay, it is a static code analysis tool to perform source code quality analysis and security audit on your application source codes. We are also using the Spotbugs plugin, which covers the OWASP.10 and CWE. And then we have a stage called the Open Source Vulnerability Check. We are using a tool from OWASP called the OWASP Dependency Check. This tool will actually perform security vulnerability scan on all the third-party libraries that your application's code is using. This tool covers the OWASP top 10 list as well, and it's based on the vulnerabilities published on the well-known source from NVD. And then we have a stage called the Software Composition Analysis. Okay, we are using a tool from OWASP called the OWASP Dependency Track. Apart from the capability of detecting vulnerabilities of your third-party libraries, this tool is also able to show all the libraries used, regardless whether they are vulnerable or not. It's like your software component bomb list for your application. It's also able to detect if a library version is outdated and also provide the license information of those libraries. Right, just now we mentioned that our DevSecOps stack also support Docker. So therefore, we also have a stage to perform an image security scan using a tool from Claire. So but what it basically do is that you actually scan all the layers in the Docker image, which includes the OS and software packages in the layers. So this is to ensure that what we have packaged into the Docker image is also free from vulnerabilities as much as possible. And then for repository, we are using Nexus. Okay. Okay, now let's take a deeper look at the continuous deployment, or in short, we call it CD. Sometimes we also call it the release pipeline. Okay, remember earlier in the build pipeline, we have this human gate for the QA manager to come and endorse the build, right? So after the QA manager endorses the build, the deployment artifacts will be promoted to the release repository waiting to be released. Now, when it comes to this release pipeline over here, there's also another human gate here, as you can see, it's called the release gate. Okay, where your release manager would need to come in to have another round of check and approve the release before your deployment artifacts can be released to your UAT repository and then subsequently be deployed to your UAT environment. Now, after the UAT deployment, there's also a release promotion gate over here, as you can see, okay, that needs to be approved before it can be promoted to your next environment, which is your production environment in this case. Now, in this CD pipeline, the deployments to different target environments will be automated using our Equerrier docking services, or in short, we call it EDS. But later in the demo, my colleague Yu Kiang will show you how EDS automates the deployment. Okay, now let's take a closer look into EDS and how does EDS help with automated deployment. Okay, before we go into automated deployment, let's take a look at how do we do our manual deployment traditionally. Okay, so traditionally, so your application would need to prepare deployment instructions, something like this, which they have to specify where to deploy, what to deploy, when to deploy, how to roll back. There will be numerous forms and procedures to fill in. In a typical environment deployment, usually it will involve running some database scripts, deploying some services with new image tags. So for example, especially on the how to deploy part. So for example, let's take an example. Let's say if you want to deploy a service with a new image tag. Now in a traditional manual deployment, the steps involved are firstly, backup the Docker stack file, edit the Docker stack file by updating the new image tag. You save the Docker stack file, stop the stack, and then deploy the stack with the new changes. So as you can see, it's easily 4 to 5 steps here just to deploy one service. Now in a microservice architecture, it's very normal to have more than 10, 20 microservices running. It can potentially grow up to 20, 30, 40 steps, depending on the changes involved in your deployment. Now imagine you're the DevSecOps team who need to do manual deployment by looking at this long list of steps here. Now, it wouldn't be a surprise if you would miss out a step or perform the step in the wrong sequence. All this might lead to deployment failure or even application error after the deployment. And longer the steps, the chances of making mistake is also higher. Now, let's take a look at how EDS helps with automated deployment and how it can help to reduce these human errors. Before we go into the deployment, let's take an overview of how EDS looks like. So once you log into the EDS, you'll be presented with this dashboard view where you can tell how many projects and how many environments that are accessible by you. So what it means here is that EDS supports multi-tenancy. You can actually use EDS to manage multiple projects and all the different environments for each project. For example, your UAT, or some project might even have a staging environment and also your production environment. Okay, let's go into the deployment feature in EDS. Now, once a UAT pipeline push the UAT deployment package into EDS, under the deployment page here, your DevSecOps team will be able to see the deployment package as with a status as push under this specific UAT environment here. And your DevSecOps team can view the deployment package detail. Okay. Over here in the detail page, they'll be able to see what is this deployment about through the description over here. And under the preview section over here, they'll be able to see the instruction of this deployment. Now with EDS, all these deployment steps that you traditionally need to run manually are now translated into these deployment steps over here under the preview section to EDS. Okay. And for text files like SQL files or configuration files, okay, your DevSecOps teams can also click on it to view and verify the content. Now, after they have verified everything, all your DevSecOps team need to do is just one click at this deploy button, and EDS would execute all these deployment steps for you automatically. My colleague Yu Kiang later will also be showing you a live demo in a short while. Okay, let's take a look at how EDS helps with day 2 ops and monitoring as well. EDS comes with some basic monitoring features. For example, in this tag page, okay, you'll be able to see all the services that are running in this specific UAT environment. And you'll be able to see all the status of all the services. So when you see everything is in green, means they are all running healthily. Okay, you can also see the number of instances that for each of the service, and also which nodes or VM that they are running on. Okay, and then EDS also provides a resource usage monitoring at the VM level, As you can see here, there are 3 VMs in this environment, and their memory, CPU usage, you can also monitor through here. And not only that, EDS also provides a resource usage monitoring at the container level, meaning to say, not only you can monitor the resource usage at the VM level, now at each and every single container, you can also monitor their CPU usage, their memory usage. Okay, right. Yeah, so at this juncture, I would like to pass it over to my colleague Yu Kiang for the demo. Now, before I pass it over, is there any question that I can take, maybe help to answer? Okay, let me take a look at the message section here. Okay, right. Okay, I think okay, maybe let me just answer this question. Someone asked us, have we deployed this solution in any government project? Right, the answer is yes. We have successfully deployed our DevSecOps stack in several government projects across different government hosting environment as well. In fact, we have been using it in our product development team for the past few years before we actually even productize it. So we actually tested it ourselves, and we have seen the benefits and how it helped to increase the productivity. Okay, yeah. So okay, let me pass it over to Yu Kiang for the demo. Yu Kiang, over to you.
My name is Yu Qiang. I'm the technical consultant with Topan and Queria. And for the next part of the webinar, I will be taking you guys through a demonstration of our Queria DevSecOps stack. Okay, but right before I begin, we'd like to remind you guys, okay, to actually maximize the screen, okay, to actually have a better look of the demonstration. Okay, if you're not sure how to do it, you may also refer to handout, right, that is being provided by Amanda earlier during the start of the webinar. Right. So without further ado, okay, let me begin. Right. So what you see right here, okay, in the screen, okay, is actually the Jenkins environment. Okay, so Jenkins is actually a automation tool, right, that we use to manage our CI/CD pipeline. So for this particular demonstration, we actually set up a CI/CD pipeline, right? So hopefully, after the demonstration today, and based on what Xiaoqing and I have presented, you guys will have a better appreciation of our entire DevSecOps process, right? So right off the bat, right, on the left-hand side, right, of the screen, okay, you'll be able to see what we call a build history. Right. So what is this build history section all about? Right. So in modern day applications, right, as applications are becoming bigger and more complex, right, is during the application development stage. Okay, the developers, right, they will have to develop their application incrementally and in batches. So whenever the source code is ready to be deployed in the environment for testing, okay, they will have to build the source code, right? That's the first step, and to actually check in with the repository. So this is where, okay, all your build so-called audit trails, right, will be actually documented in this build history section, right? With the latest build right at the top, okay, of your build history section to the earliest build right at the bottom, right? So that's the first thing, right? As we navigate down, okay, the screen, okay, you should be able to see, okay, our Aquaria DevSecOps, or we can call it a CI/CD pipeline, right? So as reiterated by Xiaoqing earlier on in her presentation slide deck, okay, there's actually the CI/CD pipeline is actually constituted of two main components, right? So one is the CI and one is the CD. Okay, so the CI pipeline, right, starts. How does this entire CI/CD process commence? Is from the point that the developer checks in the source code to the repository, and all the downstream activities will be automated from then on. Okay, and if you look at the screen right here, under checkout source, okay, all the way right to QA gate, okay, this set of activities will be under the CI pipeline, and subsequently after the QA gate will be activities that are relevant to the CD pipeline. Okay, so in my demonstration today, I will be talking about three key activities which I feel that they are part of their importance that shows some form of security that's incorporated in our CI/CD pipeline. So the first activity that I would like to talk more about today is what we call the SonarQube analysis. So Xiaoqing has explained earlier that SonarQube is actually our static code analysis tool. Okay, so it actually runs secure code scan and actually so-called security audit on your source code. So after running the source code, what do you get, right? So if you take a look at the screen right here, you will be presented with what we call a report. Okay, so this SonarQube report actually showcases you the number of bugs and the number of vulnerabilities after the static code scan. And from this report, your application team is also able to identify all these bugs and vulnerabilities and actually begin fixing them early in the CI/CD pipeline, so that to be able to build a more robust source code for the deployment into the testing environment. Okay, in the same report, you can also take a look at the number of unit tests that's being carried out for the static code scan, and it actually tells you the percentage of the source code that is actually run based on these unit tests. Okay, so this is actually the first step whenever the source code is being checked out from the repository. Okay, so moving back into the pipeline, we know that now you have so-called security scanning on your source code. So what's next, right? So the next key activity that I would like to talk more about, is what we call the open source vulnerability check. Okay, so open source vulnerability check, like what Xiaoqing mentioned, we actually use a tool called OWASP dependency check. Okay, so so how does this come into play? Okay, in modern day applications, a lot of these applications are not written in source code from scratch. So a percentage of the entire application, you actually leverage on third-party dependency libraries, and this is where OWASP dependency check tool comes in useful. Okay, you can actually run a scan on all your third-party dependency libraries, and when it's after the scan, you will be able to review this report that you see right here. Okay, so this report, right? How do we analyze this report? Okay, so right at the top, right, it will tell you the total number of so-called vulnerabilities, that are being found in your third-party dependency libraries, and they are being color-coded. Okay, right from the left-hand side, you'll be able to see 19 of such vulnerabilities that are highlighted in red, 56 that are highlighted in orange, to highlight that they are high. So it's actually critical, high, medium, and low respectively. Right. So for as the application team, you will be able to also so-called sort all these security vulnerabilities according to their severity. So all you need to do is to click on this particular column, and all the critical vulnerabilities will be reflected at the top of the table. Right. This is where your application team will be able to address them first. Okay. And in addition, in this particular report, you are also able to step into each third-party dependency library to review the type of security vulnerability that has been found after the scan. Okay, so in this particular instance, we are looking at an XML injection vulnerability. So this is just a typical example of a description of the vulnerability that's being found, and your application team can actually do a deep dive to resolve that particular error. Okay, so now we know, the entire story is when you come in into CI/CD pipeline, you do a code scan on your source code. Then you do a scan on your third-party dependency library. Okay, but what's next? Okay, before the deployment can actually happen, right? So right after your container image is being generated, you will need to do what we call a automated functional test. Okay, so you will test all the different modules that are for your system before they can be actually deployed to the testing environment. Okay, so in the automated functional test activity, we are actually using a tool called Catalon. Right, so Catalon, after running Catalon, it actually produces two different outputs. Okay, the first of which is what we call a automated functional regression test report. Okay, so this is the first report that you will see. Okay, so it will actually reflect to you the total number of tests that you have run for this entire process. Okay, the percentage that the number of tests that has passed, has failed, whether it has resulted in any error, or whether there is any like incomplete tests. So all of these numbers will be reflected in this report. And at the bottom, of course, in this particular demo, this is a successful test, right? And at the bottom here, you will be able to review all the test steps in detail. Okay, so this is just one of the output that your application team can take a look. Okay, but in order to give you a more visual, in order to help the application team to a more visual aspect of any erroneous tests or any test or any erroneous or any incomplete test, right? So this is where catalog will also have another output. All right. So the other output that you see right here is actually a video recording. Okay. So let's take a look first. So you will notice, that this video recording, is actually the entire process, of your automated functional test. All right. So you're actually able to trace through all the modules, iteratively. All right. And actually, when the application team, reviews the regression test report, they are able to actually pinpoint those areas that has errors or that is incomplete, and they are able to look at this video recording to review the exact areas or the exact modules that have issues, and they will be able to dive in to do the necessary resolution. All right. So, moving back to the pipeline. I have covered 3 key activities on part of the CI pipeline. So let's assume, that the automated functional test has actually passed. This is where, the image will actually be tagged to the build repository and subsequently deployed into a testing environment. So this is where the QA manager, will come in at the QA gate stage, to actually verify the application. And the QA manager can also review all the reports, that are being generated as part of the entire CI pipeline. And if the QA manager is satisfied, with the verification of the application, satisfied with all the minimum requirements, right? All the passing requirements, the QA manager can actually proceed, to endorse the build. And subsequently, after endorsing the build, the build artifact will actually be pushed downstream, right, towards the release pipeline. So let's take a look at the release pipeline. So in this particular release pipeline, this is where your release manager comes into play. Your release manager is able to authorize the release into the particular repository that we are looking at. So in this particular demo, we are actually trying to do a UAT deployment. So it's actually the image is actually being released to UAT deployment, and subsequently, the deployment package will be pushed into EDS. So you guys might be thinking or even recall what Xiaoqing had mentioned earlier. What is EDS? So EDS is actually our Aquila docking services. So it's actually an application that helps you to perform an automated deployment. So in addition to our CD pipeline, we also have a feature that gives the release manager control. That if, let's say, for example, your deployment package has been pushed into UAT environment, and your agency users has come in, to actually verify all the test cases, to actually and they are happy with the test results. This is where your release manager can actually do a release promotion, all right, towards the production environment, and all of this is within the control of the release manager, right? So and just right before we take a look at what happens after the deployment package has been pushed into EDS, I would like to bring your attention to the left-hand side of the screen. You will notice that under the build history section, there's this build deployment tag number 94. So I want you to remember this number, because this is the deployment package that we will be deploying later. So moving towards EDS, let me log in. So once you log in, right, you'll be able to see the landing page for the EDS. So for EDS, typically it's being used by your DevSecOps specialist, or in this case, in this particular example, you can assume it to be your agency's ATFM. Right, so you will be presented with a simple and easy to use a dashboard that provides you a bird's eye view of all the projects, right, that are under your charge. Right, so you have things like your projects and environments, or even like your stacks, which showcases all the services that are running your system. Right, and on the left hand side of the screen, you will have the features that are within EDS. Right, so in this case, we are doing a UAT deployment. So if right off the bat, if we click the UAT, the deployment functionality, you will be able to select, okay, the environment that you're trying to do a deployment on. Okay, so if you remember, okay, since we are doing a so-called UAT deployment, if we try, okay, to access the production environment, you will notice that there is no record under build deployment tag number 94. Okay, and if we click back right to the UAT environment, you will notice that this record is actually being pushed into the UAT environment. So what does this mean? This means that your release manager actually has control, okay, over which environment that they are trying to do the deployment on. Okay, and in addition, okay, EDS also allows you to review further details on what are the deployment information that, or even the deployment files that you're trying to deploy on. Okay, so in this particular deployment package, okay, we are trying to deploy a new digital service, okay, called food license application service, and at the same time, okay, we are also trying to upgrade the EGP API service, okay, to 19.04.2 version. Okay, and that's just a new service, but we are also trying to enhance, okay, an existing service called ROB service, or registration of business service. Okay, we are trying to add a shortened form of name field, okay, to the form page for you to do the submission, right? And this optional field will also be inserted into the database. So if we take a look at the bottom, okay, there will be a total of 11 steps that we need to carry out in this particular deployment package, right? They will constitute of different files like SQL. You have like your configuration files, you have your health checks on your services that your agency's ATFM will have to deploy. All right. So all you need to do is click on the deploy button, and the deployment actually starts commencing. So pretty easy, isn't it? Okay, so how is it? So you might wonder at this point, how is EDS, okay, different from conventional deployment? So in conventional deployment, okay, when there are 11 steps to carry out here, your agency APFM will have to log into different VMs, different database servers, or different web servers, okay, to actually execute your SQL statements, okay, to update the database, or even to run configuration files, okay, to actually update your web server. So this can be pretty strenuous, and it also has a high possibility of a human error, okay, should the deployment of a big CR into a system. Okay, so EDS actually takes care of that automatically for you with just one click. So at on the left hand side of the screen, okay, you will be able to take a look at the running state, the actual status or the current status of the deployment, and even right before you do the deployment, okay, your agency ATFM can even step into each file, right, to take a look at the content, okay, of the file that you're trying to deploy. So if there's an instance that there's some erroneous code at this stage, okay, your agency ATFM will be able to flag it out, and we'll be able to inform the application team to make the necessary changes before another attempt for deployment. Okay, so while the deployment is running, okay, you will notice that currently is at step number 4, which is actually trying to deploy the EGP API service. Okay, so if you remember, this particular deployment, we are trying to deploy a new digital service called food license application. So if we try, okay, to actually access the link, okay, for the food license application, you will notice that it will show a 502 back gateway, which is totally fine because the digital service is actually not being deployed to the UAT environment yet. Okay, so moving back towards EDS, okay, while it is deploying, okay, I would like to show you guys some other good features in EDS which can help in the entire to make the entire deployment process smoother and more efficient. Okay, so if you take a look at this screen, okay, it actually showcases you the different statuses of deployments. Okay, you have a running, deploy successfully, redeploy, pushed. Okay, and but however, okay, I would like to bring your attention to this particular deployment. If you take a look at UAT deployment number 14, okay, this is a particular scenario, okay, whereby okay there were failed deployments. So what has actually happened? Okay, if you click at this particular timestamp, okay, you on the right hand side of the screen, you'll be able to see, okay, under step number 1 for SQL script, okay, there's actually an error message. So while this SQL script was being attempted to be executed by EDS, okay, and it's trying to drop a table in the database, okay, there was an error, and this error message will actually be intuitively reflected, okay, to your agency ATFM. Okay, and this is where he will be able to know immediately, okay, that where the error went wrong with the deployment, and he will be able to make the necessary corrections, and subsequently there will be a redeploy function for him to perform a redeployment. So after an subsequent, let's say subsequent failures, okay, there will be a time, okay, that redeployment will be successful, and all of these will be documented as part of an audit trail during for the deployment process. Okay, so other than that, okay, if we take a look at resources and stacks, okay, so here under this particular function, okay, under stacks, you'll be able to review all the services that are running in the system. Okay, so if you remember, okay, for the food license application, we are trying to deploy the EGP API service. Okay, so you will notice immediately, okay, that there are actually two tasks running in this during this juncture. All right, so one task will be marked in orange, and the other task is marked in green. So what does this mean? Okay, this means that while one task, okay, or an instance, okay, of your service, okay, is deploying, the other task is actually running. Okay, and this goes to show that in the typical HA setup, okay, for your system, there's actually no downtime. Right. So other than that, right, we would like to show you another feature which is very useful, okay, for your agency ATFM. Right. So EDS also comes with monitoring. Right. So once you click on the monitoring function, okay, you can actually monitor either by on the node level or on the container level. And once you click on the node level, you'll be able to take a look at, let's say, your CPU usage or even your memory usage of your nodes. A similar dashboard will be provided to you when you click the container function also. Okay, and based on the container function, okay, there will be able to display all the existing services that are running in the containers. Okay, and you can actually even step into each and every one of these services to take a look at the chart. Okay, so in a typical deployment, okay, there will definitely be more resources taken up to perform the changes in the system. Okay, then this is where, okay, the graph will actually showcase a spike in the resources that are being consumed. So you might ask, okay, what happens, okay, if there's a heavy load in the server? Okay, and there might be a risk, okay, that your system might experience slowness. All right. So what your agency ATFM can actually do. Okay, so let's say for example a particular service. Okay, let's say example after you deploy EGP API service, okay, it's actually experiencing some slowness. Okay, so what you do, okay, is basically to go back to resources under stacks. Okay, so for the EGP API service, you'll notice that this replica column. Okay, what you can do is actually you can click here. Okay, and your agency ATFM is actually able to manually, okay, scale up the number of tasks or the number of instances for this service. And what it does is it actually helps to balance out the load, okay, to finish all the necessary activities required, and subsequently, let's say after the deployment, when the resources are not so high, okay, resources consumption is not so high, your agency ATFM is able to manually scale down also, right? So after all that, okay, let's take a look at the deployment status. Okay, so currently, the deployment status is at step number 9, where it's trying to deploy the Nginx health check changes. Okay, so the thing is, if you notice the FLA service, okay, digital service is already deployed. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the FLA service. So, okay, so after I refresh the page, you will immediately see, okay, that the so-called login page will be made available. And once I do the login, okay, your application team can actually take a look at the digital service that is available now. So even before the deployment is actually completed, as long as that particular step is executed, okay, they will be able to start doing the necessary verification of whether your modules work and so on and so forth, right? So in the essence of time, okay, while the ROB service is running, okay, we will not be waiting for the deployment to complete. Okay, rather than that, okay, let me show you a typical example of a successful deployment. Right. So in the typical successful deployment, okay, all the steps, okay, shown at the bottom here, okay, will be demarcated with a green arrow, and there will be a deployment timestamp, okay, date and timestamp that is showcased on the left hand side of the screen. So this is just one of many of EDS features that we have to offer. Okay, and I hope that through this demo, you will have a better understanding of how our Aquila DevSecOps stack actually works. So this concludes my demonstration, and I would like to pass my time back to Xiao Qing for the closing statements. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Yu Kiang, for the excellent demo. Let me just quickly share my screen back. Right, I hope you guys can see my screen now. Okay, right. So I hope you guys have a better idea now what our Aquila DevSecOps stacks offer. Right, let me just, before I end the session, let me just a quick recap what we talked about just now. So just now we talked about how we can roll out your DevSecOps in three different stages, right? Now, without CI/CD, this is how usually it look like. You build your application outside the government environment, and then you would manually do deployment in your government environment. Now, if we implement stage 1, so what it means is that we'll be implementing the build pipeline, which is a CI part in the government environment, but our deployment will still be manual in the government environment. And if we implement stage 2, means we'll be implementing the deployment pipeline, which is the CD part in the government environment. If we go on further to implement stage 3, means we are extending our CI pipeline with the automated testing in the government environment. Right, before I end, I would like to summarize a few key points of our Aquila DevSecOps stack. Now, first, it will help to increase your business agility without compromising your security. As you have seen earlier just now during the demo, how this can be achieved. And very importantly, we have proven deployments. As we have mentioned earlier, we have successfully implemented our Aquila DevSecOps stack, successfully deployed in several projects across different government environments. In fact, we have been using it in our own product development team for the past few years. So we actually tested it ourselves. Okay, last but not least, we are very proud to say that we have very strong continuous commitment to meet the evolving government requirements. So we are constantly also looking at how to enhance or upgrade our Aquila DevSecOps stack to also either extend the capabilities or how to also meet some other additional government requirements. Right, that's the end of my sharing today. Okay, let me see if there's any question that I can help to answer. All right. Okay, I saw that there are some questions being asked over here. Let me just quickly answer them so that everyone also can benefit. Right. Okay, there's a question on if my system now in maintenance stage and is using the traditional approach for code development and release, Can I still use the CI/CD toolchain as proposed? Okay, in short, yes, you can still we can still deploy our DevSecOps stack toolchain to your this maintenance system to enhance your existing system with the CI/CD capability. Okay. And then there's also another question that is asking, does your source code scanning tool support .NET, Java, and Xcode? Yep. So the short answer is yes. SonarQube actually has quite an extensive list of plugins, and they can also support scanning of .NET, Java, Xcode, and in fact many others also. Okay. Right. I think I would like to pass it over back to Amanda now. Yeah, Amanda, over to you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kiang, for this session, and thank you for all of you for staying with us throughout this session. We hope that you have benefited in some way or another. I'm going to send you this handout as a summary of what we have shared today. And before we end this session, we would like to leave you something to think about. Now that you have an awesome tool, such as a career DevSecOps stack, and deployed in your government environment and handed over to your ATFM, how would your developers access CI/CD toolchain in the government environment during day 2 ops? So if you have the answer to it or would like to actually know the answer, do drop us an email at info@topanacquaria.com. Okay, so I think we have come to the end of this session. Thank you for spending your time with us, and do check out our first episode of the Gov Cloud webinar series, Securing Integration in the Public Cloud. Yeah, and if you like to follow our Gov Cloud series, do also follow us on LinkedIn and join our event on LinkedIn as well, as seen in the chat window. Let me paste it over. Thank you.